Up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the team.
So we are back again. We are trying to run this thing and make it run as smoothly as possible. Hopefully this is not a lag situation anymore. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Again, day 2 of NFL Free Agency Frenzy. We're back. Sorry about that. I'm a perfectionist. I want things to be perfect. This wasn't perfect, so we appreciate it. So anyway, where were we, Daniel?
We were talking about interior offensive linemen.
Yeah. So, I don't know if we jumped into that just yet, but we were essentially talking about some of the moves that had happened with the Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite move today so far?
My favorite move, man. I there was a lot that I liked. I can definitely give you. I think the Daniel Jones to the Indianapolis Colts was probably my favorite move.
Can I ask you, what is the hype about that? For me, Daniel Jones, we can't. Daniel Jones is not a difference maker. He's not a guy that's going to be a world beater. He's not even going to be able to beat Anthony Richardson out for the job.
Yep.
Anthony Richardson is more talented than Daniel Jones.
Yep.
Daniel Jones sucks. I don't know.
The hype behind it, and once again, I think that it's a move that the Indianapolis Colts, they're basically saying, this is what I took away from it. They're saying that they don't trust Anthony Richardson. They're saying he's not the guy, and that's what I'm taking away from this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, if we're going that route, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the route I personally would have gone?
Yeah.
Maybe not, because I think that you're pigeonholing your franchise quarterback, your potential franchise quarterback. But there's a world where, we've seen 2 years of this, and we've seen the dude hasn't been able to finish out an entire season. So when I look at my franchise, and if I'm in this position now, I need a backup plan. I need somebody that could potentially at least give me another extra year. And Daniel Jones, obviously he quote unquote sucks right now, but we've seen guys have terrible seasons, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and somewhat turn it around. So I think that the fact that it's a 1-year deal, and the way that this works out, Malik, is if Anthony Richardson doesn't pan out early, if Anthony Richardson gets hurt, and you could switch over to Daniel Jones, and he at least gives you the opportunity to say, hey, maybe this guy could be our, next 2 to 3 year starter. So all in all, this is something for the Colts that I think they're basically saying to the public, or they should be saying, hey, Anthony Richardson is not our guy. And that's what I took away from this.
I mean, just to make a big deal of the signing as they did, it showed a lot to me. And I think it's disrespectful. If I'm Anthony Richardson, I think it's disrespectful, but it also motivates me to even push harder. It shows that you have not approached your job as a pro's pro. It shows that you have made yourself up to be expendable. And, the chips are no longer in your favor, so to speak, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that happens. Again, make sure you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. And remember, we're live each and every single day from Monday to Friday for NFL Free Agency Frenzy. I can tell you right now, I don't know if you guys saw me on Bengal Jim's show on Sunday night, but I had told you guys, I said the name to keep an eye on for the Cincinnati Bengals is Tevin Jenkins. I also have the clip that we can post as well, but I said the name to keep an eye on is Tevin Jenkins. The Bengals were worried that his market would really would be a force, to be quite honest with you. And they didn't know if they would be in a spot in which they got outbid for the services. That has not happened to date. So Kelsey Conway has just, added on to the report that I said on Sunday. The Bengals are interested in Tevin Jenkins. We'll see if a deal does materialize. We'll see if a deal does get done. That's also part of the reason why I was kind of waiting to go live as well, because I really thought that signing at the guard spot would have been done by now. We'll see what happens. There's a good chance that we might be live again tonight, though, talking about any signings that potentially could happen. But I can tell you right now, the Bengals are eyeing Tevin Jenkins. That is something that, that is something that they want to do. And I can tell you right now, Tevin Jenkins' biggest thing is he wants to play for a winner. He wants to play meaningful football, have the chance to compete. I know there was a report out there about the Giants bidding on him. I don't know how serious the Giants are. The Giants have some opportunities to add some other guys. Tevin Jenkins would certainly be an upgrade for the Bengals guard spot, but I also don't think that they would stop there. Just hit Tevin Jenkins. I think Tevin Jenkins is the big, probably the best guard on the market right now, right? That you could potentially get, not named Mekhi Becton. They also play two different positions. You know, Tevin Jenkins was slotting at left guard. Mekhi Becton could play right. You know, I think that there's a lot of reasons why you'd have interest in a lot of these guys. One thing the Bengals made it known to everybody who would listen in earshot is we need to fix the guard spot. We need to fix the interior of the offensive line. I spoke yesterday on day 1 of NFL Free Agency Frenzy as to why it was huge it was so important for the Bengals to add to the guard spot, and why it was important for the Bengals to be able to add real talent there, because guess what? They have not been able to keep Joe Burrow upright. And more importantly, Joe Burrow has been hit time and time and time again. Let me just say this right now. There are going to be a lot of people that come out and say Tevin Jenkins is this, Tevin Jenkins is that. Here's what I can tell you. Tevin Jenkins was tired of playing in Chicago. He was tired of being in Chicago and never having the chance to really compete for anything serious, right? For players in general around the National Football League that want to win championships, something like that, they're less inclined, right? They're less inclined to play through nagging injuries for a team that they know for sure has no opportunity to compete for anything. So, you know, Tevin Jenkins, let's be clear, his injuries haven't been anything that are like, oh, it's season ending. Outside of the back injury, right when he first came into the league, it's all been little nicks that sort of have just shown up, like ankle soreness, stuff like that. So for me, I think that, you know, with Tevin Jenkins getting a new breath of fresh air, stabilized, I would say, coaching staff that has been here for a while, I think that's super, super important. But I think it makes sense for a lot of reasons. But I think Tevin Jenkins to Cincinnati is something that could come together. We will see what happens. Obviously, we will have you up to date as these things happen. I think something that also works in the Bengals' favor is Tevin Jenkins has dealt with little injuries here and there. So the asking price might not be as crazy as some of the other guards that we've seen get money. I don't know why people are valuing a Will Fries over a Tevin Jenkins. When you turn on the tape, it's very clear when Tevin Jenkins out there, he's a better guard than Will Fries, respectfully. It's not even close, in my honest opinion. And I think it shows in the numbers. I think it shows why he's been successful. I think Tevin Jenkins is the guard that the Bengals need. It would not shock me if the Bengals add a guard in the draft as well. But this is a spot that they said that they would be aggressive in. I do not think that they've been super uber aggressive, but this is right around the time where the Bengals start to come alive, right? Those that are in the know within Cincinnati knew that Tevin Jenkins was somebody that made a lot of sense. But I do believe Tevin Jenkins is a guy that Cincinnati is zeroing in on. We'll see if a deal happens. We've seen this happen before with a lot of guys. And I see Wyatt says, I'm tired of false positive bull crap. Wyatt, I'm not trying to be super positive. I just want to tell you the truth, brother. I think Tevin Jenkins is a difference maker. I think he'd be one of the best guards that they've had in quite some time here in Cincinnati. But Dave, what are your thoughts on the Bengals potentially adding Tevin Jenkins?
Yeah, I think that this is, when you look at the cap space, right? Updated cap space, the Bengals currently rank 18th in the NFL. It says projected around 28 million. I just look at this. If we're making one big splash for the Bengals, it's going to be on the interior offensive line. You look at the rest of the position. We'll talk about the defensive line. We'll talk about the cornerbacks. But as you go through each position, cornerbacks, you kind of got to fill the room. Linebackers look like the added Burks as some depth. There isn't another place where they can really make a big splash, Malik. It doesn't make sense. Interior defensive line, you got a lot of snaps already being taken care of. Is there room for a guy like a veteran guy like Calais Campbell? Sure. But you're not going to go out there and spend 10 plus $15 million on that, because that's not a clear-cut need as a starter. The clear-cut need as a starter, there is a gaping hole at your interior offensive line. And you made it very clear, and I'm talking to the Bengals, you made it very clear heading into this offseason, we are going to get a new guard. Because Alex Kappa went out the door, and the only way it makes sense to head into free agency is if you go after one of these top-tier guards. So I'm fully a fan of it. And like I said, I'm not disappointed that they didn't go after one of these guys like a Fries or hurry up and get this deal done on day one. But this is that next crop. The Tevin Jenkins, I totally agree, is the top tier of this next crop. But there's these guys in this range where, hey, you got to get one of these top guys, or else the Bengals are going to be settling for these third level free agents. And I'm just not that would be a disappointment. But once again, you look at how the Bengals have typically operated, whether it was the Orlando Brown Jr. signing or whether it was even last year, right? They filled a major need at safety, or thought they did, with Geno Stone, but they did that right away. It was a loaded safety free agency class, and they went out and they got him right away. They knew, we've got a hole and we're getting one of these guys, and they got one. So I would be very, very disappointed, let me say that, if Tevin Jenkins and Mekhi Becton go off the board and the Bengals are still sitting here. So I would also give them some grace, because like you said, you wouldn't.
No.
So you don't think that they'll, like, I'm saying give them some grace. Like, I feel like they're gonna get one of these guys.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
yeah, I think so. I thought you were saying give them some grace if they don't land either.
no,
Like,
no,
what?
no, 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 no. If they don't, like, this would be a failure, because you sat on your hands for the first 2 days and just brought back the same team. And that's kind of where this line is. And we'll get into the defense in a little bit, but they went into this free agency. Duke Tobin said, hey, we're not going to roll the same team as we did last year. But so far, you're kind of just getting these middle of the road guys. We're waiting for that big splash. And I believe Tevin Jenkins would be that big splash.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a move that makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Obviously, we'll see how it all shakes out. Before we jump back into the Bengals talk, because I do want to talk about that. I want to dive into some more moves that the Vikings made. The Vikings landed Jonathan Allen. The Vikings landed Javon Hargrave. We have over 200 people watching this live. We greatly appreciate you guys. You guys know this is my favorite time of the year, free agency frenzy. We greatly appreciate you guys for making us a part of your daily routine. Make sure you guys give the video this like. We have over 200 people watching live, only 34 likes. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you guys don't miss when we go live. But I want to talk about some of the moves the Vikings made. What are your thoughts on the Jonathan Allen move? What were your thoughts on the Javon Hargrave move? To me, Javon Hargrave does not move me, right? I think it's something to be said when the league is constantly starving for interior defensive linemen, and your last team was willing to part ways with you, right? This is now another team he's been on in as many as 4 years. And to me, I just don't know if it's that big of a needle mover. To me, it was kind of crazy that the Commanders didn't get anything of substance for Jonathan Allen. So you got to wonder how much he has left in the tank. What are your thoughts on some of the moves today coming out of Minnesota? Because a lot of people were saying Kwesi made a lot of splashes. He got a lot of names, but you got to wonder, is it a day late and a dollar short? What were your thoughts?
I think that I'm a fan of the moves when it comes to competing this year. And that's where my mind is kind of, I think they kind of are screwing themselves over, right? Like I said, I think their timeline is next year, the following year as well. Not necessarily this upcoming year. And like I said, when you look at their defense, they needed an infusion of talent. Totally. Brian Flores, what he was doing, he needed talent because they were relying on a guy like Jonathan Grenard, who's one of the most underrated pass rushers in the entire NFL. People don't give that dude enough credit, right? What he did with Houston, moving to Minnesota. So I think from a pure football standpoint, I think it's good because when you look at what they were dealing with last year, what they were potentially bringing back, Malik, it was chips on the defensive line. So Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, I think that they're a solid pairing, but that's in a vacuum, right? That's when they're playing on the football field. And you're relying on a guy, Javon Hargrave, who has had injury concerns, and Jonathan Allen, who is turning 31 or 30 this upcoming season. So from a pure vacuum standpoint, the roster looks good. It does. But I think that there's going to be serious concerns later down the road. But like I said, I think that Jonathan Allen was the guy, he came on strong at the end of last year after his injury. So I'm a fan of him. I'm just not a fan of how they're shelling out this money because when you look at this roster, like I said, it's constructed kind of to win now. TJ Hawkinson's still there. You got all the weapons in the world. Aaron Jones, they just added to the offensive line. They're pretty much going all in now. And this is a bet on JJ McCarthy. So, Kwesi, I'm looking at you, the Vikings GM. I'm saying, hey, you better bank on JJ McCarthy being good this season. And if he doesn't have that, superstar move or develop very quickly, I think that this could be looked as a failure. But they're one of the teams. Their range of outcomes, Malik, they could be an NFC championship team or they could be 9-8. Right. You don't know.
So the move doesn't, it was a lot of interesting moves that they made.
They shelled out a lot of money.
A couple other moves that I want to touch on. DeAndre Hopkins signs with the Ravens. That was interesting. Saints signed Justin Reed away from the Kansas City Chiefs. Justin Reed was a huge piece of what the Kansas City Chiefs did. Trying to think. Jacoby Brissett signs with the Cardinals. Trying to make sure that we get everything before
The
we get on to
Giants,
Bengals stuff.
Javon Holland.
Oh yeah, we talk about that, man.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
This is and we've got a piece coming up on the TWSN website. Make sure you guys go check out our website. I think that what the Giants are doing, I think this GM's really screwing them over, to be honest. And I understand this move. I think it's a good move. Javon Holland, I'm a fan of. I think he's clear cut was the best safety in this year's free agency class. My only concern is it's the way the Giants are operating. You could have had Xavier McKinney for the same price last year and you let him go. Same thing, clear cut. I know I'm comparing apples to oranges, but you signed Darius Slayton for the same amount that Saquon Barkley was asking. And that's where, when I'm looking at the Giants, what is your pathway? What are you trying to accomplish, right? Are you banking on, is it Aaron Rodgers? Is that what they're waiting for? If it's not Aaron Rodgers, okay, Russell Wilson. So Javon Holland, I think, is a phenomenal safety. I was surprised he didn't go to Minnesota, but when you look at the rest of this team, I just don't think that they're ready to compete now. I think their best part of their team is that defensive line. They're one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. So if they can re-sign Kayvon Thibodeau, I think that Javon Holland is a good signing. My only concern, Malik, is what does this offense look like? So
Yeah,
all around, I like the Javon Holland signing.
I also want to touch on this a little bit. I think that the league is basically resetting itself. That's saying basically, Dave Mulgeta, you can ask for as much as you want for when it comes to your said players, but at some point, their play has to match what the asking price is. And Javon Holland has not worked out. Right, Javon Holland did not work out with the Miami Dolphins down the stretch there, and they weren't willing to commit the true dollars to him. And the Giants were, but this is a guy that was expected to get over 100 million. Yeah. He signed with the Giants for 45, something like that.
It was 15 a year.
15 a year, right? Something like that. But so it didn't pan out the way that they wanted it to. But I think that was a great get for the Giants. Now we're moving over to the Bengals, right? I see a lot of people doom and gloom in the comment section. I think it's important to put things into perspective for a second. Hear me out. Who has been signed that you wanted the Bengals to sign? Let's start there, because there's a lot of people right there saying, you know what, the Bengals are done. The Bengals are this, that, and the third. And this is not me defending them. I'm just asking, who did you want the Bengals to sign that they have not signed yet? Because when I look at it, I see a plethora of free agents that are still available that could help this team. And none of the guys that I thought personally, that I thought would be good adds to this team, are like none of the people that I thought were going to be good adds to the Cincinnati Bengals, they're still available. Yeah. That's for me. But is there anybody out there that you thought, hey, I wanted them to sign with the Cincinnati, and Cincinnati just completely whiffed on that? If you guys can name those people in the comment section, because for me, a lot of the guys that I've talked about, outside of Baron Browning, who signed with his other team already, these guys are still available. Yeah. These guys are still available. So I just don't know. Like the Bengals were always going to be in the market of signing their own guys, right? And then signing the rest of their guys. And no, Ken, I'm not accepting being average. I think I'm just not accepting being emotional. So I think, right, for me, it's, again, let me ask you the question again, Ken Dipple. You've been a Bengal fan for 50 years, and I respect that, brother. Who did you want the Bengals to sign that they have not signed yet? Let's ask that. What is the free agent that you went into free agency saying, we want the Bengals to sign, and the Bengals did not sign, or they got signed away by another team? Name the free agent that you want the Bengals to sign that isn't available anymore. Because if we're just you're going to be yelling into a microphone, then we're not getting anywhere. Yeah. Did you want the Bengals to open free agency and just sign everybody like it's Madden who has an 85 overall and above? I'm genuinely asking. Did you want the Bengals to just sign names? We just want to see the team be active. Somebody said Chase Young. Wander L. King says Chase Young. Wander L. King, I'll tell you right now, that Chase Young deal with the Saints was already done before free agency happened. It's the reason why they converted Derek Carr's contract into the way that they did. That was already happened. It just was not official that he was there already. But he was very clear that he wanted to return to the New Orleans Saints. He was happy. They were happy with him. He liked the deal that he was offered. And to be quite frankly, his market wasn't looking the way that it wasn't looking that great on the open market. So he signs back with the New Orleans Saints. And honestly, they probably overpaid a little bit for him.
And that's what I was going to say. Ask yourself the main thing. I'm excited to keep talking about these names. If Chase Young was signed to the Bengals for $15 million for 3 years, personally, I would be kind of upset because that's pigeonholing yourself, saying, hey, he's your starting edge rusher. Like 15 million is starting edge rusher money. So I'm good off of 15 million for Chase Young.
So Wyatt Brown, I love this, man. I wish we actually had a way to call in so we could talk to you. Somebody said, Wyatt Brown, we're getting emotional here. He said, James Daniels, How Hufunga, Fries, we accept average, and F you for saying we are emotional. Our own effing players, Malik. I don't know what you're trying to say, Wyatt, but what I will say is, the Bengals were never going to sign Hufunga. They were never going to do that, right? If they're going to add a safety, which I expect them to do, it's going to be via the draft. James Daniels hasn't been great, to be quite honest with you. Will Fries, I did a film breakdown. I think you would be more pissed if the Bengals would have allocated $18+ million. If you want the Bengals to sign Will Fries for $18 million, then go ahead. Go look at what Colts people that cover the team are saying about Will Fries signing for that. No one's saying that was a great get. They're saying, hey, they got the bag. So just want to touch on that, Wyatt. Everybody came away thinking that the Will Fries contract signing was an overpay. And it was, brother. It really, really was. So, again, outside of those names that you named, and I think I've addressed every single one that you're talking about, who did you want the Bengals to sign that they did not sign? T. Higgins is going to be a Bengal. That deal is going to happen, right? That deal is going to happen. Jamar Chase, that deal is going to happen. Trey Hendrickson's market did not shape up the way that we all expected, which is why teams like the Commanders have pivoted. Could he still be traded? Sure. But let's talk this thing through. Let's have the conversation. That's why I love the show. That's why I love doing the show. I'm not going to run away from a comment and all that stuff. I will address it all. We'll talk it through. I understand people being annoyed. I understand people being pissed. But again, we have to have I think we have to have a clear understanding of what we want this thing to look like versus just yelling into a vacuum. That's just my thought process. Boss man, I'm not pressed at all. We're talking it through. I think I've been very calm throughout this entire live. I'm sorry if you think that I'm pressed. I'm not pressed. I'm talking everything through. I think I'm trying to address everybody's comments, thoughts, complaints throughout the entire thing. But I just think that it's important to not be so pissed and so annoyed because you see other teams being active, right? I think that's operating in fear of missing out. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, we got some people. Somebody said, I think it was somebody who talked about Josh Sweat. And Josh Sweat, for example, that's a good one, right? But the conversation with him is if you pay him what he got, you're probably not going to go after those, your two interior defense linemen. You're probably not bringing back BJ Hill, or you're probably not getting, TJ Slatton. And going after Josh Sweat also kind of puts you in a bind, right? All right, then Miles Murphy is pretty much a backup, or Miles Murphy's on the inside. All right, if Josh Sweat signed, what's the deal with Trey Henderson? If Josh Sweat signed, you might not be able to shell out the money for Tevin Jenkins. And that's where it's still so early in the process. So Josh Sweat, for example, I like him. I think that the way the Bengals are approaching it right now, I think gives them a lot more flexibility. Because quite frankly, if you sign Josh Sweat and Trey Henderson was still here, I'm not confident that I want to draft the pass rusher in round one. So it kind of muddies up the water. I like Josh Sweat, but I think there's a lot more complications if they were to have signed him.
Yeah, I think for me, when we did a lot of these free agent profile breakdowns, Tevin Jenkins was always a guy that made the most sense, right? He's a guy that he's still young. He's a guy that the Bengals liked, but then they got their recommendation to draft Jax Carman. We know how that all panned out. It's a lot of that, man. It's a lot of, hey, you know what? You get the ability to right your wrong, right? And you get to draft a guy that realistically should have been here when he came out of the draft, and that for whatever reason that didn't happen. What else are some other moves? Excuse me, that you want them to make?
Somebody said Levi O from the Lions, and I'm not saying me. I'm just looking at what people are saying. Levi, the same thing, and now I'm good off him, and the reason why is look at your room right now. And I'm not saying you can't upgrade, but that's a guy you're going to have to shell out serious money for at the interior defensive line spot. And you got Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, Slatton, and BJ Hill now taking up a good portion of the snap. So at this point, I'm kind of good off of paying a guy 10 to 15 million. The only move I'd make the interior defensive line, the way I'm looking at it, is give me a veteran like Calais Campbell or wait till the draft. So Levi O is one I'm kind of good off of. Some people are asking about like Dre Greenlaw. It's a fascinating name. We talked about Dre Greenlaw, and I like him. I think that he is a name, if you want to pinpoint and say, hey, he should have been a Bengal. I totally agree, but it also has to match up with what does Al Golden want? Does Al Golden want somebody who's coming off, a major injury? Does he want somebody who's entering his 30s? Does he want to pay a guy starter level money right now? And it seems like they didn't want to do that. But I think that Dre Greenlaw, I think he was one of the steals, and I think he's going to have a hell of a season with the Broncos.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about guys that are coming off of injury, I think that's the one thing with Will Hernandez too. He's coming off a season-ending injury. Will Fry is coming off a season-ending injury. And these guys, some of these guys are getting a lot of money, but as the days go on, the weeks go on, it'll start to go down. The price will start to go down a little bit, right? We appreciate everybody for joining in, tuning in. Make sure you guys drop your questions in the comment section. We'll try to get through all of them, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll try to talk things through. Somebody asked about Kevin Zeitler. One thing I'll say is I think that there was some disrespect on the Bengals in last time Kevin Zeitler was a free agent, lowballed him, which was very reminiscent of how, it was very reminiscent in sort of how he his last few years in Cincinnati sort of ended. You know what I mean? It was very, very, reminiscent of that. So obviously there might be some burnt bridges there. That remains to be seen yet. Kevin Zeitler, I'm pretty sure he's probably not in any rush to sign with the team. He's an ultra vet at this point. Probably look to wait things through. Heat Seeker said, you guys have a relationship with the Bengals and it shows. Stop the ridiculous glazing. So, I'll say, I don't know if you know this about me. I have no relationship with the Bengals. I have contacts that are in the building and people that I talk to who tell me things, and that's about it. There's no relationship with the Bengals. There's no, hey, I'll be a little easy going on you guys. If anything, I'm a little bit too hard on them at times, but I get it. I understand why people are frustrated.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why we're having this conversation is to ask you guys, who do you guys want? And that's part of this, what we're trying to have is, what are you guys upset about? What are people upset about? Because when I look at it personally, I
understand why they're upset.
Yeah,
I get it.
No, for sure. And that's why, we're just trying to figure out who else they should have gone after. And just looking at these names, like I said, the one I come after is a Dre Greenlaw. But the rest of these guys, there's still so much to be had, right? And personally, when I look at it too, the main thing I'd also be upset is T. Higgins. How's he not done? And same thing with Trey Hendrickson. So those are the dominoes that I look at. And the rest at this point, it seems like interior offensive line is the only big splash that the Bengals are going to make. Some people were saying Justin Reed, and looking at these safeties, I understand the safety position. I get that. That's one. Justin Reed, I don't think made a whole lot of money. I think it was 10 million. So that's one, you're making a wholesale change. And is that something that Al Golden fully wants? That's my only pushback. But
Can I be real with y'all? With the Bengals are sending a very clear message, and I don't know if people are picking up on that message. The message the Bengals are sending is pretty clear, Daniel. It's Lou Anarumo is the reason why our defense was as bad as it is.
Yeah.
So we are fine with running it back with the same players that we had. That's the message that they're sending.
Yeah.
It's as clear as day. They're saying we can bring back a BJ Hill, right? They went out today. They brought back a guy they traded for or picked up off of waivers, and Marco Wilson. But it's very clear that they're saying the Bengals defense was bad because of their defensive coordinator last year. That's what they're saying. So they're banking on Al Golden being a clear upgrade over Lou Anarumo and being able to get more out of the players. It's the reason why you brought back Osai. You made him a priority. It's the reason why you brought back BJ Hill. It's very clear.
Yeah.
It is very clear that they believe that Al Golden could get more out of the roster than Lou Anarumo did, with adding a few pieces that Al Golden wants that are veteran pieces. After that, they'll build through the draft. That's what they're saying. And let me just say this really quickly for people that don't think that I criticize the Bengals. That is a very dangerous game that they're playing. That is a very dangerous game that they're playing. At some point, the players got to play. Understand, that is still also a nod to Geno Stone. Yeah. That's a nod to Geno Stone. That's them saying Geno Stone is better than he looks. Right? That's the only reason why you don't move on from that guy and then sign another safety. Go after a Jamon Holland or any of these other safeties like Howell Fugna that were sitting as free agents. That's the reason why you don't. You're convinced that when Lou simplified the defense down the stretch, and what you saw out of Geno Stone was enough to say, hey, you know what? Lou was the problem. Let's run it back with a different defensive coordinator, a new voice. It's a dangerous game.
Yeah. No, and that you hit the nail on the head. I think that's how it's going about it. I mean, you just look at the roster on defense that they're putting out there, and it looks similar to last year. And I think that's a very good assessment there. I think they're also just banking on saying, hey, we're going to fill the needs now and kind of have our level playing field, and we're going to look to the draft. And I'd be very confident that especially when it comes to the pass rush, because right now, Malik, and it depends on how they finish off free agency, but there's guys in free agency that can help your pass rush out. There's Azeez Ojulari. You can go the veteran route. I don't know how much a guy like Von Miller would want, but Von Miller is a guy, you look at what he did last year. He played like 50, snaps on rundowns and like 350, 250 in the pass. This dude was a pure pass rusher. And he's a guy, if the Bengals look at it, say, hey, we need pass rush, go after a guy like Von Miller. So I feel like this next couple of days, and the Bengals oftentimes do a lot of work day 3, day 4, day 5. So let's see how they fill out the rest of this defensive line, and it'll tell us how they view this defense.
There's some interesting comments in here. I want to kind of get to some of them as well. Yeah. I know you're supposed to be the guy asking the questions there, so I apologize.
You're good.
First of all, Ken Dipple, my guy, we're on the same wavelength. He says draft Makuba in the 3rd round. I said the same exact thing. So would you believe, to my surprise, the Bengals showed no interest in him throughout the combine process? They showed zero interest in him. I believe the Bengals have it in their mind that they're going to attack defense with the first 2 picks, unless a guard falls to them that they really, really like, an interior offensive lineman falls to them that they really, really like. I believe wholeheartedly that they are they might look to go after Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. That's my belief in the 2nd round if he's there. Will he be there? That's going to be up for grabs. But man, let me tell you right now, Ken, I think you're on the right trajectory with that. I also think that I want to get this another one. There was another one here. Every D needs talent. Al has minimal. 100%. I think that there needs to be wholesale changes. And Jeff Flynn says, how do you send that message, though, when Duke said the complete opposite at the combine? His words were, we can't bring back the same team back for more money. I think it was Daniel that asked the question, actually, that made him say that. I think that we're no doubt Al Golden has a hand on, who they want back on this team next year. But somebody had brought up Mike Hilton. Al Golden's defense is a 4-3 first and foremost. So they typically run with 3 linebackers on the field at all times. They don't really run that nickel base that Lou became specialized for, right? But when I look at it, man, I think that Mike Hilton's weakness is what Al Golden's defense strength is. Yep. Mike Hilton's weakness is man-to-man coverage in the slot. And when the Bengals were playing a lot of these teams like the Buffalo Bills, like Kansas City Chiefs, Mike Hilton was targeted quite often, especially in the Kansas City Chiefs game. Yep. They kept putting their fastest guys in the slot and then telling Mike Hilton to guard him. I think the writing's on the wall there. Personally, I would be shocked if Mike Hilton was brought back, because I just don't think he's a scheme fit for what Al Golden is trying to get across and trying to do. No, don't get me wrong. There will still be slot. There still will be a nickel in there at points and times, but it will be somebody with much stronger man-to-man coverage skills. Mike Hilton made his career out of being a strong tackler, being one of the best blitzing guys in the slot. I just don't think for man-to-man coverage, what Al Golden's defense is truly based off of, and a lot of these guys left on the island, I don't think it really works out for them. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, Mike Hilton is, and look no further than the championship game, right? Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Look at one of my favorite draft prospects, Jordan Clark, right? Is a strictly slot corner who was doing a phenomenal job guarding Emeka Egbuka, but he was on the field 50% of the time. And that's something they just don't use a lot. And when they do, they're asking you to play man-to-man coverage. It's not often they sent, Al Golden sent his slot corner on a blitz. So I think that Hilton, and you hit the nail on the head, I think that his play style is not conducive to this Al Golden defense. And we even saw this, I believe, when Al Golden was here. Obviously, he wasn't calling the defense, but there were times where Hilton just he's always been that guy. Can't be a great man cover corner in the slot. Some Tom Jones said Malachi Stark's there at 49. I doubt he'll be there at 49. Could be an option in the first round though, but
yeah, I like the way he's thinking there. I like Malachi Starks. He had a little bit of a down year this year, but I think Malachi Starks has all the instincts to be a true difference maker. Here's a guy that I want you to keep your name on. Hear me out. His name is Jordan Battle. The Bengals plan to utilize him a lot. I expect him to play a lot in the box this upcoming season. I think he's going to do really, really well in that spot. The Bengals are expecting Jordan Battle to take a big leap this upcoming year.
Yeah, and I think that he's a guy nobody's really talking about.
Mhm.
The fact that they're not upgrading the safety position is huge because it's a vote of confidence.
Hear me out. Jordan Battle is a guy that they believe is going to be very, very strong. It's funny, me and my guy Trevor Sycamore, PFF, he heard the same thing. He was asking me. He was like, "What are you hearing about Jordan Battle?" I was like, "Man, listen, Jordan Battle is a guy that they're really excited about. They think that he showed a lot of flashes down the stretch here." And I think that Jordan Battle is going to do really, really well for Cincinnati. I do think that the free safety spot long term is up for grabs. I do expect Geno Stone to be the guy next year, but it would not shock me if they add a Xavier Watts in the draft, and then he is the guy to replace him in the future. That wouldn't shock me one bit.
No, for sure. And it's a very good safety class. Zach McMahon said, we're talking about adding pass rushers in for agency while the leader in sacks is on our team requesting a trade. The point I'll make to that is and this is just my gut feeling, if Trey Hendrickson was going to be traded at that point, and if he still is going to be traded, that's when I would be upset with them not attacking the edge rusher position. That's what I would say they should have went after Josh Sweat. But until that point, I think you're fine without going after one of these star edge rushers. I'm personally fine without it. So wait to see what happens with Trey Hendrickson. But the fact that he requested a trade, I know it's scary, but just because they let Josh Sweat go is not a terrible thing. It would be if Hendrickson is out the door, but as of right now, I'm personally fine with the way they've attacked edge rusher.
100%. Somebody said, do you think ESPN reporting the Bengals are talking to both Jenkins and Becton? Thoughts? I don't think it's one or the other. I think they're trying to grab both. I think that they are trying to make a huge splash at the guard spot, understanding that what they did for Joe was not enough. I think what you will see is you will see them attack the interior of the offensive line, which is why I say, guys, there's a strong possibility we'll be back live here tonight again. I really do appreciate y'all. Seriously, it's been it's a frustrating day for a lot of people. I understand that completely, but again, this is why we do these lives. We'll get through them. We'll talk them through. I think the Bengals are targeting both of these guys, and if they can land them, I think that it will be a huge upgrade. I think they'll go from that to then really trying to then pick on some of these other guys that are maybe their market kind of fell a little bit. I think once the Bengals focus right now is getting two interior offensive linemen. If they can do that, I think they'll pivot to adding little spots like maybe an additional pass rusher, because make no mistake about it, that is something that they're still trying to do.
Completely.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's a lot of these names. I mean, we could list off that are still available, that are talented guys, but they're flash. Like Joey Bosa is just flash. Zadarius Smith, I'm good. Like the priority needs to be interior offensive line. And I'm with you. There's a lot of guys in this third tier of free agency that the Bengals could get, and it could be very good. Free safety, if they want to go after one of these guys to maybe back up a Xavier Watt or a Geno Stone, Julian Blackmon's out there, and there's a lot of these safeties that could be had. And same thing with cornerbacks. The cornerbacks haven't really gone. Obviously, Dante Jackson, a couple of these guys have gone, but Asante Samuel's still there. There's still some other good cornerbacks on the market. So I think that the priority needs to be into your offensive line. And after that, there's going to be a lot of value to be had, whether it's edge rusher, strictly a pass rusher, or if they want to go in and add a safety to the safety room.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's jump on some more questions, Daniel. The floor is yours, man.
All right. So Brian Hollander said, crazy draft question. If Quinshon Judkins is available in third round, would we take a swing at him? I mean, I'm personally good. I think that the first 3 rounds are extremely crucial to building your, biggest needs, and extremely crucial to just adding talent. When I personally look at it, Quinshon Judkins, would I rather have him in the third, or give me, one of these other running backs like a Damian Martinez in the 4th or 5th round? I think the value is at defensive line in the 3rd round, interior offensive line in the 3rd round, safety in the third round, corner in the third round versus running back. If there's a running back, I think if Travion Henderson fell to the third round, I would be all over that. But it sounds like he's going to be going in the first 2 rounds. Zach McMahon asked about the cornerback room. Do you guys trust our corners right now?
I think it's very tough for them to rely on corners coming off of season-ending injuries, but it seems like that's what that's the path that they're going. I think all of us. Let me just say that I think the Bengals have some of the smartest fan bases, one of the smartest fan base, in tune in understanding what's going on with the team at all times. I think that they were wrong to approach it the way they did last season. I think they're wrong to approach it the way that it seems like they're approaching it so far this season. There's still some names out there, some veteran names that you can still take a chance on, but no doubt these guys are gonna be looking to cash in as well. But I do believe the Bengals. I really believe that they should be looking to add another cornerback at some point, man. A veteran guy that preferably is not coming off of a season-ending injury, because you have a lot of question marks. But I think that they're willing to bet on the talent of the young guys in the back end. But I think that they think that if we can go in and we fix the pass rush, the young guys look a lot better.
For sure. Tom Jones asks, what are you guys' thoughts on Jack Sawyer? Do you think he's another Sam Hubbard, or do you think he's better?
I don't think he's Sam Hubbard. But I do. I don't. At the same time, he goes missing a lot. And if you're drafting a Jack Sawyer, you're drafting him. You're hoping that he could develop into into a premier pass rusher for you. I think that people think his game is very similar because he's strong in the run game, and he I don't want to say what it is, but I think that I don't think that they're very similar. I think that Jack Sawyer he just goes missing in big spots for me. And it was kind of shocking to see the Bengals show no interest in really speaking with him at the combine as well too. And I kind of asked about that even afterwards, and I got the same result. They haven't really made a concerted effort for it. But
yeah, and Jack Sawyer he's going to go in the first 2 rounds. And when you look at the pure pass rushers, there's a lot more upside when you look at the pure pass rusher. And like I said, when you look at this Bengals defensive line too, you got Myles Murphy still there. I think he could play what Jack Sawyer potentially could have been or could be. People are asking, are you guys confident in the Bengals defensive line right now? And I think that I'm not right now. If they rolled out this defensive line, there's going to be more additions. And I'd be very concerned, like I said, and this goes to the draft, they need to add a premier guy in the first 2 rounds. Whether it's a defensive tackle or a pass rusher. But as of right now, it's a solid base. And like I said, BJ Hill is solid. I think we could see Joseph Asai have a very, very productive season. So I'm okay with it right now. But I'd be looking at least one more guy in free agency. And for sure, the first 2 rounds of the draft, you have to attack defensive line.
Some things I want to get to, man. One thing I will say that, I was very hard on the Bengals yesterday when it came to the interior of the defensive line, but I see the vision there a little bit and the thought process there. That does not mean it's going to pan out. They have so many multiple fronts they can throw at you on the interior of the defensive line with guys like BJ Hill. We know his strong suit is being a 3-tech, albeit I felt like they could have upgraded the 3-tech spot like a lot of guys there, and I would have liked to see them go in a different direction. But BJ had some good moments here in Cincinnati. I get it. They decided to go that route, but you add a guy in JT Slayton. Or he say Slayton
I
or
think
Slatton?
It's Slatton.
Slatton, and he's a strong run stuffer. You conflicting reports. PFF says that he didn't grade too well. ESPN has him as the highest. He had the highest rush win rate amongst defensive tackles. So he was very stout in the run game. We do know he's a cog in the middle. He's 6'5", 300+ pounds. This is a guy that I think the Bengals I think they see DJ Reader when they view this guy. That's what I think that they view. Just a taller DJ Reader, and I think they think he has untapped potential there. I think that they still believe in guys like McKinley Jackson. I think they think McKinley Jackson has a very similar mold to Larry Ogunjobi to his game. And then you used to have Chris Jenkins, who can do it all. You have Chris Jenkins who can rush the passer, stop the run. And I think you're excited about Chris Jenkins. But I think that their interior of the defensive line, they're looking at it as they can run a multiple front. This also, helps them. They don't have to reach for a guy that maybe they don't love at 17 when there's somebody else on the board that they might love. I do think that they could get better at the edge position. I don't think that they should go in blind, especially with Trey Hendrickson being up in the air and being at odds with the team. We don't know what the future of him holds. We do know that he is under contract for 1 year, regardless of the Bengals trade him or not. They do have his services guaranteed for another year, but it will behoove them to get another pass rusher in there. You're hoping that you see more out of Myles Murphy that can help you feel good about what the future looks like there. And you bring back Joseph Osai to hopefully build off of a 5.5 sack performance. So I understand what the thought process there, but the interior of the defensive line, I think the Bengals thought right there that, hey, you know what? We're going to add a multiple front there, and we like some of the guys there. J.R. Garrison says, we are smarter thanks to guys like Malik, Danny, Joe Goodberry, Jake Lisco. You guys' input is invaluable. We really appreciate you
that.
as well. Misfit 85 says, hey, Malik, do you think trade market is not what he anticipated it to be? I think the Bengals waited it out way too long before they allowed him to go out there and seek a trade. And I think that they knew that the tampering period was going to open up. Teams are going to get impatient and teams are going to start moving on guys. And it'll be like, it's like frenzy. It's almost like when the new shoe drops. And back in the day, everybody used to run to the store and try to grab them or wait in these long ass lines for them, essentially. And essentially that's what the Bengals did. They knew that Trey Hendrickson, it would be hard pressed for them to get valued asset back. Again, they could have traded Trey Hendrickson and got maybe a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick easily. But the Bengals knew what the Bengals asking price was, or is always going to be a much more above market value, in which, you know, all of us, we might think is realistic. They're talking 1st round pick, 2nd round pick. So, you know, apparently there was a report that came out there that said Trey Hendrickson's team came out and said we could get the Bengals back a 1st round pick. So the Bengals saying, okay, we'll see. Let's get us back a 1st round pick. When the offers came in and none of them produced a 1st round pick, well, we agreed to let you go out there and seek a trade, but you told us that you'd get us a 1st round pick back. That didn't happen. So it's a standstill. Now no team is willing to negotiate and enter those waters to grade. So it seems. So now, what is Trey Hendrickson's best course of action? Is it coming back to Cincinnati? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I think Trey Hendrickson, and we had this discussion before, like at this point, and you were never the Bengals, if Trey were to be traded, you're not going to replace him with just one guy. That's very clear. The fact that this Bengals defense, if they were to get rid of Trey Hendrickson, you are having to replace so much pass rushing production. And I think as of right now, I think you'd be setting your team up for failure this upcoming season. And that's just how I view Trey Hendrickson. I think that this is a team where you got to be in a Super Bowl window to win now. You got to be looking at this, hey, we're going to win now. And the next 2 seasons are, our prime window. If Trey's gone, especially at this point, if you're trading him, I don't know if a team is going to shell out a 1st round pick. So we're talking a 2nd and a 3rd. You get more flexibility, sure. But I think you're so far behind the 8 ball if you were to trade Trey. And what are you going to do? Where are you going to allocate the extra $16 million as of right now, right? Maybe it's one of these supplemental pass rushers, sure, but they're not stepping in and doing what Trey Hendrickson has done. So I want Trey Hendrickson back on this team, and I think that this Bengals defense would be far better along this upcoming season if Trey's on this team, because my fear is if Trey's not on this team, Malik, you're going to have to rely on Osai as a starter. You're going to have to rely on, your 1st round pick to produce at an elite level right away. So, and it pigeonholes yourself saying, hey, we basically got to get one of these first 2 rounders and they got to produce this season. So Trey Hendrickson, I want him back on this team. And I'm looking at it from the angle, yes, you got to look 3 years in advance, but I'm trying to win the Super Bowl now if I'm the Bengals. 100%. And I think that if they're putting all their eggs in the Al Golden basket, you got to give Al Golden players too. And Trey Hendrickson, by far and away, is the best player on the market available. He's going to be better than any draft pick is this upcoming season. Trey Hendrickson is the best player, and you want the best players on your team. And Trey Hendrickson should be on the Bengals this season.
Great. Let's get to 2 more, because I have a feeling we might be live back again tonight.
For sure. We got Haney said, what deals do you guys think will get done before the draft? T, Jamar, or Trey? This is just a guess for me. I think the Trey Hendrickson situation, I feel like, has to get figured out before
it has to.
The draft.
It has to. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't think there's much more to that. It has to.
And then Jamar Chase is one, like, is Jamar Chase, he's got time. Mm-hmm. And this is, I forgot who was saying it, but Jamar Chase has, he's the one who's in the position of power here, right? He can wait. The longer he waits, same thing. If they would have signed it before the combine, he wouldn't have gotten the Myles Garrett news, right? Of the potentially being the highest paid non-quarterback. So this is a thing, this could drag out. But at this point, Jamar Chase is in a position where he put all the production out there and saying, hey, it's your guys' job to match me. So I don't necessarily know if they're gonna get that done soon, but that's
Yeah. And Larry B. Spicer has a final question. One more question. Do you like guys like Deion Walker in the second? He's got the size and nose and the pass rush juice. I love Deion Walker. I would like to see him not give up on plays so quickly. It feels like if he doesn't win in his first pass rush move, it seems like he sort of kind of, I hate to put the word give up, but it feels like he kind of just walks out there. Me and Danny were doing a film breakdown of him recently. Actually, you could just visibly see him at points just literally walking up the field. And it feels like if he doesn't win on that initial instinct, the guy just sort of just gives up. But he is a game wrecker. He's big. He's huge. Could you imagine Deion Walker and then TJ Slatton on the interior of the Bengals defensive line? As I have said in the past, that would feed families. It would be an absolute game-wrecking core. 6'5" defensive ends, and then you have potentially Trey Hendrickson coming off the edge and whatever the next said pass rusher might be. I think that would be scary. I think slowly but surely the Bengals can, in a lesser way, build a defensive line that is very special, very similar to what the Eagles were able to do by having multiple guys that can rush the passer, multiple guys that can push the pocket. Yeah, so that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, Deion Walker, just final thought on him. It depends. Like round 2 is very valuable, but that's the sweet spot for these, interior defensive lines. So Deion Walker, you're banking on, I want the biggest dude in my room, and he's 6'7". So regardless of, my criticism, and there are serious criticisms of him, his play style, but you have to rely on your coaching. And obviously the Bengals haven't necessarily been the greatest at developing, pure pass rushers, but Deion Walker, if you get him in the building, you have something to work with. And I'd be, very hard pressed to find a reason to be fully upset with him without him having seen him play down with the Bengals.
Yeah, 100%. Well, listen, guys, that's all the time that we have right now for right now. Like I said, I have a funny feeling we might be back live. So keep it locked to the YouTube channel. If you haven't been staying on here, we have over 300 people watching live, only 67 likes. If you guys give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, we greatly appreciate it. But turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live as well, because if a signing does happen, we will be live ASAP to cover it, to break it all down with you, with grades, the whole 9 yards throughout the entire process. It's been a whirlwind of a day. Bengals are trying to get their guard signed here in Cincinnati. Let's see what happens. But listen, we greatly appreciate y'all. I have a funny feeling we'll be seeing you guys shortly. And if we don't see you guys later tonight, I'm sure we will see you guys tomorrow, same time, live for another episode of Free Agency Frenzy Day 3. But greatly appreciate y'all. Hopefully be seeing you guys soon. Enjoy the rest of your night.
All they ever do is win, so kick